G'day folks, and welcome to Robbies River Round-up for Friday the 27th of March 2015, brought to you as always by Adventure Camping and Fishing at 14 Rowan Street, Wangaratta, where they have been flat out selling shotgun shells and decoys lately because duck season is underway, and I hope everybody that went out last weekend had a great shoot. Today I've got a few trout lures. Last week I spoke a little bit about hard body lures for Murray cod. This week I'm going to speak about the different types of trout lures. But I'll talk about that in a minute. First I'm going to talk about the rivers. And at the moment the rivers are looking just absolutely pristine. The lower stretches of the rivers, particularly the Ovens and the King River in Wangaratta where I live, and the Ovens in particular, is the nicest I can remember seeing it looking for a very long time. And the good news is there's a few fish being caught. My good mate Brett Corker went out during the week and got a nice 60 centimetre trout caught in Wangaratta. And yeah, so the water's cooling down. But as it cools down, it gets a bit more oxygen in it, and it just gets that nice green clear look. At the moment, the lower reaches of the Ovens River are fantastic. The lower reaches of all the rivers are fantastic. The trout streams are really low. Now, I said that every week lately, but when I say that, where I am now, I'm right up high in a headwater of a tributary of the Kiwa River. I'm in the Kiwa River catchment. This particular creek, which I won't name because it's only about 3 foot wide and probably can't sustain too much fishing pressure. But this particular creek here has got a pretty good flow. It's very clear, it's very cold, and the trout are quite active in it every day except today. I just had a cast in here and it didn't do any good. A lot of the streams are really struggling for water, but those that have got water and those that have got trout, the fish are biting pretty well at the moment. The spots that have got the most reliable water at the moment are the bigger rivers. The Ovens River is flowing quite well above Bright. It's low, as expected this time of year, but it's still okay. The Kiwa River is flowing really good. The Minnows River is flowing high because they're letting water out of Lake Dartmouth. So there is good water around in some of the trout areas. So the trout fishing is really good in places that have got water. The lower reaches of the rivers are looking absolutely fantastic, and even the small creeks that have had that real dark tannin water in them for the last 3 or 4 months that haven't been flowing, they're even looking really good. And those little creeks that have got redfin in them, now's the time to get out and try and chase those redfin, because as the water's cooling and clearing up, everything just becomes a bit more active with the increased oxygen that's in the water. Anyway, that's how the rivers and creeks are looking. Similar to last week. Without any changes in the weather, there's not many changes in conditions other than the fact that it's just getting a little bit drier each week. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a chat about different trout lures. I've got the 3 main sorts of trout lures here. I've got a bladed spinner. Spins around in circles when it's got water going around it. A little soft plastic. And a minnow. They're the main 3 lures that trout fishermen use. There are others, of course. Some people like little spinner baits, some people like little surface poppers, and there's all types of different things. But these are the main 3 that people normally reach for when they go into a tackle shop and buy themselves a new trout lure. Big trout don't get big for no reason. They get big by being cunning and being smart and dodging lures for a long time. As a result, the best lures you'll find for bigger trout are natural lures. This is one of my little metalhead soft plastics. Well, that particular colour is not a good example, that's white. That in a nice dark colour, which I make in black metal, is great for bigger trout. And the little minnows, like this one here, which is a Pontoon 21, they're good for bigger trout because they're still quite natural. The bladed spinner, they do account for the odd bigger trout, but they come into their own with the smaller trout, which are not quite as educated. So, let's talk about them in depth, a little bit more in depth. Soft plastics. This is a metalhead. I make them. There's other ones. The little striped tiger nymph is a great trout soft plastic. Pretty much any soft plastic that's really small and dark in colour looks very natural and works well for trout. And places where they come into their own, and you can't even hardly see the water from this video angle, are in little holes like this, where I need to fish quite vertical. A bladed spinner, they are very easy to fish, but you need to be able to make a long flat cast and reel it in on a plane, so to speak, so that blade can spin. Not really good for fishing vertical. Soft plastics can still make those long flat casts, but they can also be fished much more vertically. In fact, they can be fished so vertically that you can drop them down directly under your boat or your kayak, or next to the log that you're standing on, or under a ledge, and you can just bob them around the bottom. Just make it look like a little bait fish or something, just little tadpole or whatever, just swimming around the bottom. So soft plastics are ideal, and they're much more versatile, and you can fish more different types of water, sorry, and they come into their own. As mentioned, bladed spinners have accounted for more trout than any other lure, but you need a nice long flat area. The best thing about the bladed spinner is that they're easy to fish. They're a no-brainer. With the soft plastic that you've got to bob around and work around a little bit, the more life you put into it, the better it seems to work. The bladed spinner, there's none of that. You just cast it out and you reel it in and you wait for the trout to commit suicide. They're easy to use, they're easily obtainable. All tackle shops have different sorts of bladed spinners. This one is the Warden's Rooster Tail. It's one of my favourites. I like it. It's probably the best fish catching lure that I've ever used. I often mention the Super Vibraxes in my bladed spinner when I'm talking, in my fishing magazine articles when I'm talking about bladed spinners. The reason being the Super Vibrax, in my personal opinion, is a bit stronger than the Warden's Rooster Tail. The Rooster Tail has a knack of bending in the middle and sometimes you've just got to straighten it up a little bit. There's none of that with the Super Vibrax. But the upside of the Super Vibrax is I believe it attracts more fish, quite possibly due to the little feathers on the end and the colourful shapes. This time of year, heading into the middle of autumn, and it's quite cool out here, which is an indication that it is the middle of autumn. It's about 12 degrees where I'm standing. These fluoro colours can work quite well. Minnows. What's the best time to use a minnow? Trout or redfin, I'll always take these little minnows. This is the Pontoon 21 Crackjack. In my opinion, probably the best minnow ever made for trout because it's got a little weight inside it. When it's under pressure, there's a little ball bearing on the inside. When you cast it, the pressure from the cast forces that ball bearing to the back, makes it travel through the water smooth, and it rarely ever tangles and it casts accurately. And it always swims well and catches fish. But there's a whole variety of minnows on the market. You don't have to be too pedantic. This is just one of my favourites. But minnows come into their own. You can't fish them vertically like you can the soft plastic. You can't drop them down and let them sink because they sink too slow or they don't sink at all, a lot of them. And a lot of these, like these ones here, are suspending, which means they don't float or sink. They dive. But they come into their own, they'll fish well in open sections, the same as the bladed spinner or the soft plastics. But I like them a lot when the fish are actively feeding on bait fish. Lakes in the winter, when they're feeding on the little smelt and stuff like that. These little clear colour ones are ideal for those situations. In the autumn, when they're building up to their spawn and they're starting to get a little bit aggressive and chasing little fish out of their little spawning areas, minnows will come into their own in those environments. So you've got three different lures here. If you're going trout fishing, think, where am I fishing? What time of year is it? If you think, okay, it's April at the moment, the creeks are really low, it's only a small creek and I've got to fish it from a high bank, go a soft plastic because you can fish it a lot more vertically with so much ease. If you think, okay, this is a stream that I'm fishing, I know the big trout come up out of the main river into this tributary this time of year to spawn. As they start swimming upstream to spawn, they're likely to be a bit more aggressive. I might go for a minnow, something that's going to just attract the fish's attention, maybe get an aggressive strike rather than an appetising strike or a strike from a fish that wants to eat. It's going to strike out of aggression. If you think, I'm just going to a popular river like the Hauqua River, I know it's got a few fish in it, it's nice and open, I just want to walk upstream and relax all day and not put too much thought into it, get a bladed spinner. They will catch the big ones as well, but I just think that the soft plastics and the minnows catch the big ones better. The bladed spinner is probably the best all-rounder out of all three of them. So hopefully if you go into a tackle shop to buy a new lure for chasing trout, this gives you some sort of an idea of which one comes into their own in which situation. So anyhow folks, the rivers are looking really good at the moment. The creeks are low, but those with water in them are looking really good, and the water temperature has dropped considerably, and the water conditions at the moment are ideal for trout in the creeks and rivers that have got enough water in them. Okay, I hope you have a great week and I'll see you next week.